हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम। जय श्रील प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
संजय प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु जी।
राधा भावनी माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण। जय श्रील प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु
जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी। हर्षी माता जी। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
तुषार प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण। And प्रवीणा माता जी, हरे कृष्ण, दंडवत प्रणाम। Okay, so we are doing nectar of devotion. We are on 5th chapter. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरू श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। पंचतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपा स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। Okay, we are doing this Bhakti Shastri, we are on act of devotion. We are doing 5th chapter. Some of the devotees, they joined today. We will do the first 4 chapters summary at some point of time in future with them. Today we are on 5th chapter. This chapter contains 3 main topics. The first topic we discussed 2 topics last week. The first topic was purity of devotional service. And we discussed how devotional service is so pure that it does not depend upon one's past, one's birth, one's activities. But it is pure enough that anybody who takes to this can become purified and go back to Godhead in this life. And we discussed some misconception that people used to have in the earlier days is devotional service is only for those who are born in Brahminical family, or devotional service is the kind of those who are descendants of Nityananda Prabhu or Goswamis. They have to be the leaders of devotional service. And we saw many examples like Haridas Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Pandit, and many in our previous predecession who were not born as Brahmanas, but they were spiritual masters. Or sometimes people say that if one is not born in a Brahmana family, he can take up Krishna consciousness, but he cannot chant Gayatri. For Gayatri, one has to be born as a Brahmana. And becoming a spiritual master is out of question unless one is born in Brahmana family, or sannyas is to be given only to those who are Brahmana, who are born in Brahminical family. So there were many misconceptions in the past. And then we saw some quote from like one example is Devahuti. She says that even if one is a dog eater or Malecha or Yavana, if one takes to devotional service, one can perform all Brahminical rites. Like in the previous ages, only those people can serve in a temple, can serve in the altar, those who are born in Brahminical families. So becoming a guru, taking sannyas, worshipping the deities in the altar, chanting Gayatri, they were supposed to be restricted only to Brahmanas. But we saw from various quotes the purity of devotional service such that at any point of time, and then we discussed how Brahminical means the mode of goodness, and Kshatriya means passion and goodness, Vaishya means passion and ignorance, and good and Shudra means ignorance. And devotional service, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, anybody who engages in unalloyed devotional service will come to the mode of goodness and then transcend. So this principle of devotional service is so pure. Anybody who practices it will be uplifted. They will gradually improve their modes to goodness and then they will transcend. So that's something in gist we discussed. Then we saw the supremacy of, then we saw the mysticism of Vaishnavism. How is Vaishnavism very mystic? And there, the main point we discussed, like we saw the example of Vishwamitra Muni, who performed severe austerities for 1000 years. And Indra became insecure that he may take up my post. So he sent an Apsara who started tinkling ankle bells. Vishwamitra Muni was attracted. He opened his eyes. He became attracted to the Apsara, Menaka, and then he procreated with her and Shakuntala was born. Then he lost, because of that act of illicit relationship, he lost all the powers of his austerities, Ashtanga Yoga. And then he again performed austerities for 1000 years. Indra sent another Apsara. Vishwamitra Muni could hear the sound and he became angry that she has come to destroy my 1000 years of devotional service, and he cursed her. become a stone. So then, because of that anger, he again lost all 1,000 years benefit of austerities. So the paths other than bhakti are very dry. But bhakti yoga is such that we saw um, um, occasional fall downs in bhakti yoga does not bar the practitioner from progress. If the devotee laments and is determined in his practice of devotional service, the bhakti path can absorb all the mistakes as long as one repents um, and with determination follow the path of bhakti. In other words, for one who is practicing devotional service, there is no need of any sort of atonement. And another thing with bhakti yoga is any advancement make is permanent. If we have developed, say, 20% taste in our chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, nobody can take ever that from us. Because of offenses, we may temporarily lose it. But whatever attraction to hear about Krishna, to chant Krishna's name, anything that we have attained is ours. Nobody can take it. Anarthas may increase. If we feed on anarthas, it's like putting fuel into the fire and it burns further. So if we act on anger, lust, envy, greed, these anarthas may increase. Yet the advancement in Krishna consciousness cannot be lost. This is like every service we render, every mantra we chant, every lecture we hear, every food we offer, everything we do, we make continuous progress. And we discuss this verse from Bhagavad Gita. Api chetsu duracharo bhajante mam ananya bhag sadhu eva samyak sadhu eva samantavya samyak vivasito hisa. That even if one performs a most abominable activity, if he is properly engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly. This is mysticism of Vaishnavism. That if one is just resolute to practice Krishna consciousness, all the obstacles, whether we act on it or don't act on it, eventually will go away and taking us to the path of pure devotion. Now, this section that we are going to discuss today is about supremacy of bhakti, or how the path of bhakti is superior to the other path of spiritual progress. Human life, we will discuss a little bit about human form of life also today in the supremacy of bhakti. But the purpose of the human form of life is self-realization. And we will see how bhakti is the best path to attain self-realization. Okay. So this is taken from Uddhav Gita. There is a conversation between, just like Bhagavad Gita is between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, Uddhav Gita is between Lord Krishna and Uddhav. It comes in 11th Canto Bhagavatam, chapter 21st. Many verses are taken from here. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of karma and jnana. If one sticks to devotional service, that is the best qualification. So Lord Krishna says, now there are three paths defined. One is Karma Yoga, one is Jnana Yoga, and one is Bhakti Yoga. And we will discuss about them a little bit more. Those who want to know more about this, I think in upcoming slides. But person who are already elevated in discharging devotional service, which is Bhakti Yoga, will never take shelter of the process of karma and jnana. If one sticks to Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, that is the best qualification, Krishna says. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Uddhav, because I desire that human beings may achieve perfection, I mean, all living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna says, he comes to dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yoga yoga, to establish dharma. And Krishna is the Aham Bija Pradapita. He is the father of all living entities and he is our eternal well-wisher. So he established dharma so we can practice dharma and we can reawaken our love for him, which is lost because of absorption in the matter since time immemorial. So Krishna says, my dear Uddhav, because I desire that human beings may achieve perfection. If somebody asks, okay, tell us one desire of Krishna. One desire of Krishna is he wants all living entities to attain perfection. And that's why he comes. That's why he speaks Bhagavad Gita. That's why he performs so many pastimes. That's why he killed all the opposing elements to dharma. That's why he takes so many incarnations. Everything is just for living human beings because he desires all of us to attain perfection. So Krishna says, my dear Uddhav, because I desire that human beings may achieve perfection, I have presented the three paths of advancement: the path of knowledge, the path of wealth, and the path of devotion. Besides these three, there is absolutely no other means of elevation. Anybody who wants to make progress in their spiritual life, Krishna says, I have given three paths: the path of knowledge or Jnana Yoga, the path of work or Karma Yoga, and the path of devotion or Bhakti Yoga. Among these three paths, Jnana Yoga, the path of philosophical speculation, is recommended for those who are disgusted with material life and are thus detached from ordinary fruitive activities. Those who are not disgusted with material life, having many desires yet to fulfill, should seek perfection through the path of Karma Yoga. So here Krishna is describing who should take to the path of Karma Yoga and who should take to the path of Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga is where we have material desires. We try to fulfill those material desires and we try to use the results in the service of the Lord. So it's Karma Yoga. Yoga means connection with the Supreme Lord. Karma Yoga means I am doing my work. Because I have material desire, I am attached to that kind of work. So I want to do it, but I will somehow engage in Krishna service. So this becomes Karma Yoga. Then Jnana Yoga is those who are too disgusted with material life. Like I know one person, he was kind of became very disgusted with the life itself. And then he, they go to the forest, they read a lot of scriptures, they speculate, they have their own understanding. They are very minimalistic in a way, live a very renounced life. And they worship God as Brahman, as someone who is all pervading. So they are Jnana Yogis. So those who are disgusted, okay, go to the forest, read the scriptures, speculate, and try to elevate yourself. Those who are too attached, keep working, fulfill your material desire, somehow dovetail in the service of Krishna. If somehow or other, by good fortune, one develops faith in hearing and chanting my glories, such a person, being neither disgusted with nor very much attached to material life, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me. Those who are balanced, extremist, take to the path of karma and jnana. But those who are fortunate enough and those who are balanced, they take to the path of bhakti, and part of bhakti includes hearing and chanting. Hearing about Krishna, chanting his holy name, chanting his glories. Such a person, being neither disgusted, they are not disgusted with material life, nor very much attached to material life, nor they have strong desires, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me. So Krishna explains three paths. Krishna says first, I aspire, I desire all living entities to attain perfection. There are three ways to attain perfection. There is Gyan Yoga, there is Karma Yoga, there is Bhakti Yoga. Gyan Yoga is for those who are too disgusted with material life. The process is philosophical speculation. Read and try to understand. Keep reading whole day. Try to understand. There is no practical service done to Krishna. There is no chanting Krishna's name and there is no hearing Krishna's glories. It's more about speculative or Sankhya philosophy. Like, what is this material world made up of? What are the elements? It's that kind of philosophy. They eventually worship Krishna as Brahman or formless. It's one path. Arjuna asked Lord Krishna in the beginning of 12th chapter, should I worship you as with a form or should I worship you without a form? And Krishna says, those who worship me as I am, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, they are the best. Also described in Bhagavad Gita. Then Bhakti Yoga is for balanced people, and Karma Yoga is for those who are too attached. Everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities. Fruitive activities are activities done with fruits in the mind. Why I'm doing this? Because I want that desire or I want that thing from my work. So that becomes fruitive activities. Non-fruitive activities are those when the work is done for the pleasure of the Lord. When the work is done for some material gain, it becomes fruitive activities. Everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, penance, which is basically austerities, knowledge, people read Vedas and many books, detachment, people renounce many things. Hare Krishna. If you want to go to a church, I'm in a class. Yeah. Everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, penance, knowledge, detachment. Mystic yoga, which is Ashtanga yoga, charity. Many people do lot different kinds of charities. Religious duties, which is worship of demigods and various fastings, various religious duties, not just pure bhakti. And all other means of perfecting life is easily achieved by my devotee through loving service unto me. So Krishna says, whatever result you may attain from fruitive activities, penance, detachment, austerities, reading of scriptures, mundane religious activities, you can attain, or my devotee, one can attain by loving service unto me. That this all is just explaining the importance of Bhakti Yoga. How Bhakti Yoga is superior to Karma and Jnana, and how the results attained through any other process can be attained simply by hearing and chanting. If somehow or other my devotee desire promotion to heaven, liberation, or residence in my abode, he easily achieves such benedictions. Whatever desires one may have, Bhakti Yoga can fulfill those. And we see one example of Dhruv Maharaj, who wanted a kingdom greater than Brahma, practiced Bhakti Yoga by chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and remembering the form of the Lord, and having a spiritual master as Narad Muni, and attained perfection, saw the darshan of the Lord, and he also got his desire fulfilled. For 36,000 years, he ruled a kingdom which is Shweta where Lord Vishnu himself resides for 36,000 years, which is greater than Brahma's abode, which is Satyaloka. The residents of both heaven and hell desire human birth on the earth planet because human life facilitates the achievement of transcendental knowledge and love of God, whereas neither heavenly nor hellish bodies efficiently provide such opportunities. So this is Krishna speaking to Uddhav, and he is telling those who are there in heavenly planets, they also want a human birth. And those who are in the hellish planet, they also want a human birth. Because human birth, there is an opportunity to gain the transcendental knowledge and develop love for Krishna. In human birth, we can attain. There is another verse Brahmaji speaks where he says that even Indra, Chandra, Surya, and various other demigods aspiring to take a birth in human life on the earthly planet. Because this is where, by practicing devotional service properly under guidance of spiritual master, one can go back home, back to Godhead. And Krishna says, whereas neither heavenly nor hellish bodies efficiently provide such opportunities. In heaven, there are a lot of distractions, and in hellish, there is a lot of suffering. In heaven, there is a lot of pleasure. It is described those who are too happy or too much fulfilled with material, too many material desires fulfilled, or those who are in too much suffering, neither can take up Krishna consciousness. A human being who is wise should never desire promotion to heavenly planets or residence in hell. So Krishna says, like many people may want to go to heaven to enjoy material benefits. But Krishna says a human being, a wise human being, should never desire promotion to heavenly planets or residence in hell. Indeed, a human being should also never desire permanent residence on the earth. I want to live here, should not desire. For by such absorption in the material body, one becomes foolishly negligent of one's actual self-interest. One's actual self-interest lies in developing love for the Lord. Once one becomes absorbed in Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, one becomes absorbed in chanting, in hearing about him, in remembering him. When one becomes absorbed, he tastes the ocean of um, happiness by being in contact with Krishna through his name, through his pastimes, through his form, through his glories in various ways, or through by rendering service to him. Anybody who become absorbed in Krishna tastes an ocean of nectarian bliss in his life. But those who want to perform fruity work on earthly planet, or who want to go to heavenly planets, or who want to go to hellish planets, they are going to be miserable in this life and the next. Because Krishna says in 8th chapter Bhagavad Gita, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Puna Avartino Arjuna. Lord Krishna says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka. Brahma Bhuvana Loka. Bhuva is lower hellish planet. Brahma is the highest planet. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka. From the highest planet of Brahma Loka to the lowest planet Patal Loka, every place is described by Lord Krishna as Dukhalyama Shashvatam. It's a place of misery. And he says, Puna Vartino Arjuna, because there is cycle of birth and death. Whether we go to heavenly planet, there is birth and death. And whether we go to hellish planet, birth and death, earthly planet, birth and death. These are there in whichever planet we are in. And every planet is full of anxieties. That's why anybody who desires anything other than love for Krishna or back to Godhead will remain in anxiety and will remain unhappy, will remain unsatisfied, because no amount of material desire can satisfy us. Whatever the material desire be, the satisfaction is only mental and it's temporary. It's temporary and it is mental. Krishna says, and when the body is temporary, how can any material gain be permanent? And it is seen that the cause of happiness becomes the cause of misery in this world. Whatever we aspire for, when we attain it, gives troubles, or maybe bigger responsibilities, bigger anxieties. And then we feel like, oh, there was nothing in that. It's not up till we achieve it, because mind creates a hallucination before we achieve it and makes us run behind it. And when we achieve it, then we are like, nothing much. There is a saying, like khoda pahar nikli chuya. In Hindi, there is a saying which basically means you work so hard to attain something, and then you find a little bit here and there. And because the natural proclivity of a living entity is to desire, he develop newer and newer goals and keep running behind newer and newer goals and achieves nothing, or whatever is achieved is lost over a period of time. At least with death, everything is lost. So Krishna says, having taken a human form of life, one should not be negligent of one's real self-interest. One's real self-interest lies in developing absorption in our spiritual practices, in remembering Krishna, in chanting names of Krishna, hearing about Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavad Gita, and various other scripture, association with devotees, visiting temples and rendering service into the temples. Those who are engaging in this way, they are true well-wishers. So a wise should not desire heavenly or residence in hell, because those who are there are aspiring to take a human form of life, because this is most conducive for self-realization to the path of loving devotion to Krishna. A wise person, knowing that although the material body is subject to death, it can still award the perfection of one's life, should not foolishly neglect to take advantage of this opportunity before death arrives. So Krishna is saying that person who is wise should not aspire heavenly planet, should not aspire hellish planet, should not aspire material comfort, should not want to stay forever on earthly planet, should seek his own self-interest by taking up loving devotional service. And although the material body is subjected to death, still one can attain perfection if one properly uses this human form of life. It will die, but it can give us perfection, because we need a physical body to practice devotional service, to hear about the Lord, to chant his holy names. We need it. So knowing that although the material body is subject to death, it can still award the perfection of one's life, should not foolishly neglect to take advantage of this opportunity before death arrives. So Krishna says, whoever has taken birth is sure to die, but before death arrives, one should not fail to take advantage of this opportunity of human form of life. Prabhupada said human form of life should not be misused in material activities which are common to dogs and hogs and other living entities also, um, um, searching for pleasure and searching for other things. But prerogative human form of life is an opportunity to absorb in our Krishna consciousness. Knowing that one's duration of life is being similarly cut down by the passing of days and night, one should be shaken by fear. So Krishna says, this is healthy fear. Krishna says fear should be good. Knowing that one's duration of life is being similarly cut down by the passing of days and nights. With every day, we are one day closer to death. With every night, we are one night closer to death. So knowing that one's duration of life is being similarly cut down by the passing of days and night, one should be shaken by fear. I mean, a devotee is fearless, but then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, fear in mode of goodness is one should know what is to be feared, what is not to be feared. So Krishna to Uddhav, he says one should be shaken by fear. That, okay, let me properly utilize my time for in my self-interest, for spiritual upliftment. In this way, giving up all material attachment and desire, one understands the Supreme Lord and achieve perfect peace, and try to understand Krishna. So Krishna is telling this to Uddhav, or basically he is telling to Uddhav through to all of us through Uddhav. O Uddhav, whoever have taken a human form of life should render devotional service unto me, should understand their time in this world is temporary, short, should not be distracted by many desires, many material desires. should not over endeavor for maintenance or pleasure, but should take advantage of the human form of life and realize their spiritual identity and render loving devotional service unto me through bhakti yoga. Then they are actually taking advantage of the human form of life. They are their own well-wishers. Scripture also says one should become one's own guru. One's own guru means you guide, your intelligence should guide yourself to practice Krishna consciousness. The mind is like a child, distracted to many, many desires and many, many things, and may not like Krishna consciousness, may not like chanting, may not like hearing, may not like association, may find fault in many things. That is just the mind. We are not the mind anyways. We are spirit souls. So we don't take mind very seriously. We don't take the demand of mind very seriously. We don't identify ourselves with the mind. We don't think whatever mind says is what I have to do. But we have to use our sharpened intelligence to instruct the mind in a proper direction. Krishna says if we don't do so, then mind is our worst enemy also. If we are not properly engaging. Mind has many distractions. Many attachments. Krishna says use the mind. Mind should be used for growth. Mind should not be used for degradation. Okay. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. Krishna says actually achieving a human form of life is a very rare achievement, but it is automatically obtained by the laws of nature. Like, based on our activity, our desires, and what we remember at the time of death. We attain a body and then keeps on changing based on laws of nature. Sometimes reptiles, sometimes aquatics, sometimes birds. It keeps on changing, and then eventually one may come to the human form of life. Human form of life is considered as the most rare. So although it is very rare achievement, human body is awarded, which can award all benefit in life. Human body, human life, if properly utilized as per direction of Bhagavad Gita, can give you perfection in this life. That's why Prabhupada says, human form of life should not be used like animals in various material activities, but should be used for one's welfare, for progress in Krishna consciousness. It's a very rare achievement, Krishna says. His human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as favorable winds, impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. So the human body is compared to a boat. What is the purpose of a boat? Is to cross the ocean. What is the ocean you want to cross? Cycle of birth and death. From material existence to spiritual existence. Material world to spiritual world. And this, where we are in, it's called Bhusagar or Samsar or cycle of birth and death. This is an ocean of material existence. Ocean of cycle of birth and death. So human body can be used as a boat to cross over this ocean of misery, ocean of cycle of birth and death, ocean of material existence. So what all is needed in the boat? The boat needs a captain. The captain guides, go in this direction. The captain gives the direction because he's experienced. So that captain is compared to the spiritual master. The spiritual master guides us. Don't do these things. Do these things. Do these things. Do these things. Try your best. But then if the boat doesn't listen to the captain, the boat is lost because it's an ocean. Anywhere you go, we are lost because which direction to go, we don't know. So we need a proper captain. A proper captain is Guru, spiritual master. And previously, there were no motors in the boat. So um, the movement was dependent upon favorable winds. If the wind is not favorable, then no matter how you turn your flag, it will be very difficult to reach the goal. So that favorable wind is compared to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, everything we discuss. So this is favorable wind, what to do, what not to do. Then Guru guides. Captain, experienced captain and favorable winds can help the boat cross the ocean. Likewise, the instruction of Sri Krishna coming through the mouth of Sri Guru, who is not only giving us instruction, but personally guiding us at different phases of life. That's the captain. Guru, instruction of Lord Sri Krishna, using the human form of life, the boat, one can cross the ocean of material existence. And Krishna says, since human birth is he says, it is a very rare achievement. And although it is subjected to death, and although with every sunrise, sunset, it is approaching, one should properly use the human form of life in one's own real self-interest. When a person is disgusted with the temporary, illusory nature of this world and is detached from it, his mind, guided by the instructions of his spiritual master, considers again and again the nature of this world and eventually gives up the false identification with matter. So Prabhupada says, we have been associating with matter. He says, especially lust and greed. We have been associating with these foreign subject matters since time immemorial. And there may be strong inclination towards wealth and women. Prabhupada. He says attachment to wealth and women is natural because we are in contact with these foreign substances since time immemorial. But gradually, by the process of Krishna consciousness, when a person is disgusted with the temporary, illusory nature of this world and is just detached from it, his mind, guided by the instruction of his spiritual master, considers again and again the nature of this world and eventually gives up the false identification with matter. But when one understands that I am a spirit soul, I am spiritual, I have an eternal relationship with Krishna, and in that relationship with the Lord, I can be fully satisfied. On the contrary, many other things are going to distract me from my goal. When one develops some kind of affection, taste in Krishna consciousness, one has a clear knowledge. Whence one's intelligence is sharpened by the mercy of the Lord, then one can walk straight to the path of perfection. And nature of this world is a devotee who is practicing Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, he may be very much attached to many activities, but at some point of time, the detachment will develop. And one no more aspire those material things. This is naturally, it will come by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Many examples. There was one king. Yesterday we were discussing in short with some devotees that there was a king by the name King Yayati. He, it's a long story, but he was married to a girl whose name was Devayanti. And previously when the king would marry a queen, she was the daughter of a king. So there were many, she would carry many maid servants, the queen, to the house. And Yayati was the king of the earth planet. So king was married to Devayanti, and Devayanti has many maid servants. and one of the maid servant was Shumishta. So the king, he somehow became attracted to Sumishta, had a relationship with Sumishta. It was revealed. Devayanti became very angry. Devayanti went to his father. The father became very angry that Yayati had a relationship with Sumishta. So the father cursed King Yayati that you become very old. So Yayati became a very old man and he lost his youth and he could not enjoy any further. Then Yayati became very morose. He begged forgiveness from the father. Then the father said, okay, since you are repentant and you're begging forgiveness, whatever curse I have given cannot be taken back. But you can exchange your old age with the youthfulness of any one of your son, if your son agrees. So he had 4 sons. He asked the son, can you take my old age and I will take your youth? 3 of the sons said no. One of the son was very obedient and had lot of affection for his father. He said, okay, I will take your old age and you take my youth. So he had a son named Puru. King Yayati, he took the youth of Puru. And Puru, although his son became very old. So then King Yayati, it is said for thousands of years, this is previous yugas, they would live very long. So for thousands of years, he enjoyed life as a king with his wife. It is said all kind of pleasures, wealth and women he enjoyed for thousands of years. And after doing that, he was not satisfied. He was not fulfilled internally. And he started reflecting, I have tried everything, I am not fulfilled. Somehow he was inspired to practice devotional service to Lord Krishna. And he started practicing, hearing about the Lord, reading the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam associated. This experience was like fresh air in his life. He felt so satisfied, so peaceful, so fulfilled. And by the practice of Krishna consciousness and by his own experience of enjoying material life for thousands of years, he developed detachment. He and his wife, Devayanti, both were unfulfilled after thousands of years of enjoyment. They developed some kind of renunciation and they both started seriously practicing Krishna consciousness. And they both were completely fulfilled. They became very advanced and they became pure devotees, completely attached to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, self-realized, satisfied, peaceful, fulfilled, content, unlimited happiness. Then the father, he told Puru that I'm very grateful for taking my old age. Now I can take the old age back from you. And again, he made Puru young because they would have very, very long life, thousands of years. So whatever he enjoyed, he developed the realization, developed detachment from his previous attachments. And then Puru, he made Puru the next king and he became old because of the curse and he went back home, back to Godhead very soon. So this naturally comes. I mean, Prabhupada says, there are 2 ways. Either we can enjoy and eventually we will realize the satisfaction does not lie here. The satisfaction lies in my sincere spiritual practices and my absorption in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness, those who are practicing Krishna consciousness will by themselves develop detachment. Because Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Gyan and Vairagya as the 2 children of Bhakti. Those who practice devotional service, the path of Bhakti will give you Gyan and Vairagya. You will get realizations from within your heart and you will develop detachment. In Guru Puja also we say Devya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. That those who are practicing like Guru, all the knowledge is revealed to him from within his heart. Or the Bhakti Yoga will itself give you knowledge and will give you Vairagya. Lord Rishabh gave to his sons. Persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death. And until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudev, there will be no question of getting out of these stringent laws of material nature. Lord Rishabdev is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had 100 sons. The eldest son was Bharat Maharaj. And in his teachings, Lord Rishabdev tells his sons that people engage in fruitive activities, or fruitive activities means performing their work, their duties, without keeping Krishna in the center, without practicing the principles of Bhakti Yoga. They are fruitive workers, work without Krishna consciousness. So persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death, naturally. If there is no Krishna consciousness, there is birth and death. Are repeatedly accepting birth and death. And until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudev, there will be no question of getting out of these stringent laws of material nature. So the way to escape the ocean or the cycle of birth and death is loving feeling for Vasudev. The moment we become attached to Krishna, our material life is finished. We attain perfection. About developing attachment to Krishna. Or in other words, the supremacy of bhakti. We discussed how, so far we discussed how bhakti is superior to karma and gyan, how there are three paths. Extremists take the path of gyan and karma. Bhakti yoga is for balanced people. Most fortunate people take the path of bhakti yoga. The elements of bhakti yoga are hearing and chanting. Human life is an opportunity to practice bhakti yoga. Human life should be used for spiritual progress. Human body is compared to a boat, and Guru or spiritual master is a captain of a boat who is guiding us through favorable winds of instructions of Lord Krishna. And the purpose of this boat is to cross over the cycle of birth and death. Human form of life, Krishna says, although it's temporary, it can award perfection. Then Krishna says, with every sunrise and sunset, the human form of life is closer to end because it's temporary by nature. One should, Krishna says, one should be shaken up by fear. In other words, one should see the urgency of seriously taking up Krishna consciousness and not wait for another time, not wait for another day, but should become serious as the life is short. Should become serious, make the proper use of human life, and engage under guidance of Sri Guru in the practice of devotional service of Krishna consciousness. And Lord Rishabdev tell his sons, unless one develop loving affection for Vasudev, one become attached to Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cycle of birth and death will continue. Okay, last part of this chapter. Whom all are we indebted to? This is little difficult to understand. Let's try. A devotee is not a debtor to anyone or obliged in any way. This is, my dear king, if someone gives up his occupational duty as they are prescribed for the different varnas and ashramas, but take complete shelter, surrendering himself onto the lotus feet of the Lord, such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he any obligation to perform the different kinds of activities we render to the great sages, ancestors, living entities, family, and society members, nor has he any need to bother executing the 5 kinds of yagya sacrifices for becoming free from sinful contaminations. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is free from all kind of obligations. So it is said that we are obligated to sages for giving us scriptures, to parents for giving us this body, to ancestors to give us the property that we inherit. um, to the king for giving us the environment so we can sustain, to the demigods for giving us the air, sun, water. So we are indebted to everybody, demigods, sages, king, ancestors, parents, and so many people. For us to live, we are indebted for a comfortable living to so many people. But anybody who takes up Krishna consciousness is no more a debtor. Because one example given is if you water the root of the trees, all the uh, twigs and branches are nourished. So Krishna is the root of all existence. And when we render devotional service to Krishna, then there is no need to obligate or pay our debt to any living entities. So this is this and that supremacy of bhakti yoga again. A devotee is not a debtor to anyone or obliged in any way. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee has no duty to perform, yet he should act to set a good example. And Vedic scriptures describe various sacrifices of purification. Those things are also not needed. Just the practice of devotional service is self-sufficient. Then accidental fall down, even if one does not execute a specific occupational duty, but immediately takes direct shelter of the lotus feet of Hari Krishna, there will be no fault on his part. And in all circumstances, his position is secure. Even if by some bad association he falls down while executing devotional service, or if he doesn't finish the complete course of devotional service and dies untimely, still he is not at a loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in Varna and Ashrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. Or in other words, those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, if they are not able to execute any occupational duty, or if they fall down or they make mistakes, it's okay, because of bad association, or because we heard that whatever advancement we make is permanent. But those who are perfectly following their duties of Varna and Ashrama, as a Grihastha, as a Vanaprastha, as a brahmachari, as a brahmana, as a kshatriya, as a vaishya, as a shudra, those who are perfectly following all the principles of based on their ashram and based on their varnas, but are not taking up to Krishna consciousness, Srimad Bhagavatam says practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. Without Krishna consciousness, all our duties, we we do not gain the true benefit. We do not make spiritual progress by doing that. These are good activities. Okay. My dear king, a person who has given up the worship of demigods and has completely concentrated his energy in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has become very, very dear to the Lord. As such, if by chance or mistake he does something that is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies because the Lord is situated within his heart. He takes compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake and corrects him from within. This we discussed in the topic of mysticism or Vaishnavism. Um, um, if by chance or mistake, if a devotee does something that is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies. Because the Lord is very kind and he is situated in the heart, he becomes very compassionate for the devotee's accidental mistakes and correct him from within. As long as we continue devotional service, accidental fall downs are, there is no reaction to them as such. But at the same time, Prabhupada also says we cannot do wrong things in the name of Krishna's compassion. That will become an offense to the holy name, which says to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy names. One of the offense to the holy name. Since I'm chanting, so I can do wrong things and I'm chanting, that will nullify. But accidentally, Prabhupada says Maya is very strong. Sometimes we make a mistake. It's okay. There is no need to atone as long as we are determined every day in our practice of Krishna consciousness. Who is a first-class man? Krishna says to Uddhav, my dear Uddhav, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instruction, giving up all occupational duties, is to be considered a first-class man. Krishna also says, I mean, this is a difficult topic to understand, but Krishna also says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam shanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So if anybody neglects duties based on varna and ashrama, but takes complete shelter of the Lord, Krishna says to Uddhav, he is considered first class man. Okay, so that's all we have. This is the end of the 5th chapter. If there is some discussion, we can take now. Any questions, comments, discussion?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Pranam Mataji, congratulations.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I just had one little doubt on that being indebted. So when the devotee becomes indebted, that means the devotee has attained perfection, right?
A devotee has become indebted.
Yeah, like you said, when a devotee becomes indebted to when he doesn't stay indebted to anything, not to biological parents, to
So what is your question?
so when a devotee reaches that stage, so then does that mean that it has a the devotee has attained perfection when he's not indebted to anyone, like he doesn't stay indebted to anyone? Yes.
So the concept, Mataji, is we are naturally ऋणी होता ना, हिंदी में बोलते हैं ऋणी है, मतलब
Yes.
हम उनके ऋणी हैं, मतलब हम we are in debt. They have done something for us, so we are in debt to them. We have to pay back. So we are indebted to demigods for everything they are giving. Wind, sun rays, temperature, everything is controlled by demigods, and we are able to live in this body because they are making arrangement for us to live. Likewise, the forefathers, we are getting the ancestral property, the parents, the sages who have given us the scriptures, and whoever else. It's like so much help is needed for us to maintain in this body. So we are indebted to all of them, but a devotee who engages in Krishna consciousness is not indebted to them. How we come out of the debt is by worshipping the demigods, offering sacrifices, by biological parents, by our various debts to them or various services to them. I mean, we have to render service to them anyways, but I'm just giving an example. There are ways to reciprocate for what all they have done through various activities mentioned in the Vedas. But then Nectar of Devotion explains that if somebody takes to Krishna consciousness, he is no more in debt, because whatever they have obtained is by the mercy of the Lord. The demigods have the particular powers to do whatever they can. The sages were inspired by the Lord, and the knowledge was revealed by the Lord. That's how they're able to write. The children were blessed by the Lord to have a child. The parents were blessed by the Lord to have that whatever property they could gain. So the giver of everything is Krishna. He is the root of all existence. So when one renders devotional service to Krishna, he is not a debtor to anyone else. In other words, if one worship Krishna and neglect demigods worship, he does not incriminate any sin by doing that. But if he is not a devotee of Krishna, and if he does not reciprocate with the debts he has taken from everyone, then he incurs sinful reaction. Does it answer? Is that a difficult concept to understand?
No, Prabhuji. Yeah, I answered a lot. Yeah, Prabhuji, but I got a little bit confused because in Srimad Bhagavatam, I think in 5th chapter, there's one verse, I think 15th or 16th verse, like where it talks about like how we should be indebted to Vyasadev and
Yeah.
or yeah, I just like that just clicked my mind. So
Well,
just
it says, let me offer my humble obeisances or gratitude, which is very important. But we are not indebted. But if you see, Vyasadev is Guru. So Guru and Krishna, same level. So we are indebted forever to Guru and Krishna because they are giving us Krishna. By their mercy, we have what we have. But otherwise, indebted, we are not indebted to the provision provided for the life of the body or to make the body live. We are not indebted. If we worship Krishna, and that is the invocation prayer, Nashta Paresh, yeah, you understood?
Yes, Prabhuji. Now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should not be indebted anymore, like not like the devotee should not be indebted anymore for like the material things, right?
Any obligations?
Obligations, yeah.
Like just for example, like great saints, they can, like for example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lord himself, he had duties to his mother, duties to his wife. He took sannyas order. It caused a lot of kind of pain and suffering or separation to Vishnu Priya Devi, Sachi Mata. I mean, he's Supreme Lord himself, but there are many sages like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, who had obligations to all the duties. But if they take to the devotional service to Krishna, they are not indebted. But if they neglect their duties, not for the sake of pleasing Krishna, but just because they find it very difficult, then they are incriminated by sinful reactions. But a devotee, for neglecting any duties, like if you see Rup Sanatan, those who are writing, their Goswamis, and they are living in Vrindavan, and they are like full-time devotees. And based on scriptures, like, so many scriptures and so many saints, there is no obligation as long as the purpose behind doing whatever is done is spreading of Krishna consciousness or progress of Krishna consciousness. Many times in India, there is a saying, how can this person do this? How this is so rude, this. That's because of lack of scriptural understanding. Did I clarify, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Question, discussion?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanvat
Sanjay
Pranam.
Prabhu, long time. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा। एक सवाल था मेरा कि जैसे अपने स्क्रिप्चर्स में काफी प्लैनेट्स बताते हैं, जैसे सबसे लोअर प्लैनेट पाताल लोक हो गया, फिर देयर आर हायर प्लैनेट्स. सो इन लाइफ वी सी सम पीपल आर always very lucky, some people are always in a bad shape. Can it be considered that people are actually on different planets while on this earth, or are these actual different physical entities?
Yeah, they are physical entities, Prabhu. There is a detailed description in Bhagavatam. There are 14 planets, planetary systems. Earth is the middle. Above Earth, there is Bhuvarlok, there is Bhuvarlok, then there is Swargalok, then there is Janalok, Tapalok, Mahalok, Satyalok. So these are different planetary systems. Bhuvarlok is where subtle bodies, people who are in the subtle bodies, they live. Swargalok is Indra and other lives. Then Janalok, Mahalok, Tapalok, and Satyalok is Brahmalok, where Brahma lives. And on the bottom, there is Atal, Sutal, Talatal, Patal. These are all planetary systems. And in Earth planet, some are in better condition, some are not in better condition. That is based on one's karma from previous life.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else? Any other discussion?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, just one question. Is
Okay.
there any kirtan in the starting, or is it like due to time limit we are not?
Oh, who is this Mataji? Saloni Mataji grandparents. Oh yeah, now I know. Mataji, Kirtan we can do next week. Yeah, I mean, many times, sometimes we do, but generally we directly start with discussion. But I'm open for Kirtan. Sometimes we can do Kirtan.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That it gives some good sequence to follow.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
good
It's
vibrations.
good
will get
vibrations,
in,
definitely.
yeah.
Okay, Mataji, I took the requests. All right, so if devotees permit, we will end here and we will start with the 6th chapter of Nectar of Devotion next week. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantapati Vaishnavendra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna,
Dandavad Pranam.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavad.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Mataji.